Good morning, my name is Dave Hawkins, captain here at Allen Township Fire Department. We're going to have a quick class on our initial company operations drill. What this drill is designed to do is to provide everybody on the crew a basic framework of what to expect on your standard first alarm assignments. So first due assignment, normal engine staffing is 3 people to an engine. If we have full staff, you'll see 4 people on an engine. So when I get into it, I'll discuss the differences between a 3-man and a 4-man engine. But essentially, and I apologize, I'm not an artist, but so what we have here is a depiction of the training ground. This is the training tower, this is the driveway, parking positions, Wilbur Road, Allen Center Road, fire station. Okay, have a depiction of the tanker. Of course, it's not to scale. Engine not to scale, and give a little bit of an insight into what I'm talking about. So the reason we have standard company operations, it's the same across the board for every shift. So when we go on the scene, it's a uniform and disciplined operation. We don't specifically go into advanced techniques on this basic company operation because, first of all, generally we always have somebody on probation within the first couple years of being here. So this drill is designed to build the fundamentals. So our vent enter surge, RIT, all that other stuff comes a little bit later, but it also builds off of this. So this is the foundational drill for most of our company operations. Oh, I forgot one thing too. So 2 different types of operations we go on, or I should say, is fire alarms, smells and bells, or report of a fire. So the first variation to this is if it smells and bells. So if we got a report of something smells like smoke, or we get a fire alarm, it's the officer's discretion, but we don't always pull a line right off the bat. In that case, though, we do pull some sort of an extinguishing device, which would be a PW can. Okay? Other than that, this normal standard company operation is in effect. So, a couple things to talk about. We're not going to go over the go drill, but we have a go drill that precedes this. We work off of NFPA 1720 time standards, which is 80 seconds from the time you receive the alarm till the time the truck is going out the door. That's not, sitting in your recliner hitting the push to talk button saying we're responding. It's the time that the truck is actually leaving the threshold of the station. There's also NFPA requirements for travel time, but that's something that we can't affect, so I don't factor that into training. It is what it is. You make it there as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. Once you get on the scene, from the time you set the air brake on the engine till the time you're prepared to make entry is 120 seconds. That's 2 minutes. That means you have everything in place. You have the lines down, water supply prepped, not necessarily in place, but prepped for water supply. The officer's done his 360 and you go in. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. So I'm going to go over real quick what the layout of the engine is. So our engine has 1,200 feet of 5-inch, and it's got 3-inch bays as well. It has 3 speed lays. We have a 200-foot 1.75" on the bottom. We have 200-foot at 2-inch on the top or the middle, and 250-foot at 2.5 on the top, pre-connected. The 1.75" flows 150 gallons a minute. The 2-inch flows 200 gallons a minute. The 2.5 flows 250 gallons a minute. So some of the basic designs is if you've got a standard room and contents fire, or you got your normal 1,500 square foot house, generally your 1.75" hose is going to be able to get your initial attack. If you're dealing with a garage fire with, a vehicle, if you've got a little bit larger BTUs, you're gonna step it up, you're gonna use your 2-inch, and then like your fully involved structures, you may do a 2.5. We generally, especially if we're only running 3 people, we will operate with the 1 3/4 and the 2-inch mostly, unless we're going to. The problem with the 2.5 is it's less mobile. We can get almost the same flow out of a 2-inch line, but it's more maneuverable. So that's why we generally prefer it. Our reasoning for the 250 gallon or 250 foot 2.5 is that we want to have, in case you do get into trouble, that's our RIT line. That goes in order to protect the firefighters so that you can go beyond or whatever. So that's generally the concept of those lines. Seat positions, you got your driver, of course, you've got your lieutenant or in charge, you've got your nozzle person, and you've got your hydrant or forcible entry person. If we're running 3 people, the nozzle person also has to do forcible entry duties. So the irons are located in the bottom compartment, in the back of the cab. So the second part about the layout of the engine is kind of laid out for traffic flow, meaning once everybody gets out of the truck, we don't want people running into each other. So once the air brake's set, the officer will grab the tick, come around back, get his tool. The nozzle person will step out and either get the PW can, which is in the first compartment, or he'll grab the selected line. So that allows those 2 people to move without being running into each other. The driver and the hydrant guy, the driver will take a couple seconds to set the brake, set the pump before he gets out. That gives your hydrant guy time to get out and get to the back of the truck if he's going to pull the line. Or he comes out, comes around, helps manage the hose for the nozzle guy, and then goes up and gets ready to force entry. After the officer gets his tool, he will come out and he will do a 360. So generally what he's doing is he's looking for fire conditions, life safety, hazards, or and he's getting the final touches on his game plan, what we're going to do. If he happens to find an open door in the back, or it's a basement fire with a basement access in the back or something like that, he will order a change in hose deployment. Our standard hose deployment is to the front door. He'll order a change in the hose deployment, which would be, the way we have it worked on this shift is basically you leave the line you've dropped in place and you go get the next size line and you would take it around back. That does 2 things. It leaves you a second line on the ground for your next crew, but it also doesn't waste time trying to pull a hose all the way around the building. So for a training evolution that you're going to do today, we're going to come around, the driver's going to set the engine, hopefully in the most advantageous spot, which is for the training tower, off the doorway about 15 feet is centered in the driveway. So I don't know if we have vehicles out here today or not, but if we do, we'll probably have to move ahead of time. So the order of operations, so as the engine comes around and comes up and they set, when they get to about here or before, the officer has a decision to make. And this is a decision to make on all fires. Are we laying in or are we going in? Just going in straight without dropping the line. Several factors that occur that affect that are, is there anything showing? Is there a report of people trapped? If there's a report of people trapped, the standard plan is that the tanker and the engine basically follow each other back. We don't worry about setting up a water supply because we take the 3,600 gallons that are in the tanker and the 1,000 gallons that are in the engine. That gives us approximately 20 minutes of firefighting time, which should be enough to make a rescue. So otherwise, we follow the standard deployment of hose, which is anything under 600 feet is just go to the front, or anything under 300 feet, you go to the front door. Anything over 600 feet is generally you let in. So, okay, I just said a whole lot. Any questions? Anybody have anything to add? Okay, so when you get on the scene as the nozzle person, you have essentially, we carry triple fold loads. Are you familiar with the triple fold load?
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay, well, we'll get a little bit of experience with it today. But the triple fold is, it's a decent load for, it's supposed to be, you deploy the line within 1/3 of its length. It's a good line. There are arguments, some are better, some are worse, but this is the one we have, so this is the one we train to. It has what I consider one major thing you've got to understand is when you deploy it, you run 3 sections out, so you have to grab, which we have them tied together with a rope, but you have to grab 3 hoses and pull them. We typically will do, most people in school are taught to do a 90-degree pull, which is basically pulling it all the way out that way. We do also do an alley lay, which is if you have 2 people, one guy takes the nozzle this direction, one guy takes the fold this direction, and then they play it out. If you only have one guy, he'll tuck the nozzle up underneath the front wheel, and then he'll go backwards. There's another way to do it, so you got 90, 180, and then the 0 degree, which is going straight up, which is essentially the opposite of that, except for usually you don't separate the nozzle and the hose. You'll keep all 3 and you'll just go straight up that way. The second thing that happens is once the nozzle, your hose is pulled all the way to the end, as you're coming up this way, you will grab the last 50-foot coupling. We do have 100-foot sections of hose. If the last section of hose is 100 foot, you grab approximately the 50-foot point. And you will bring that hose up to the front door, and what that will do is give you your initial in the door line. The second thing you do, so we have door control. If the door is closed, you don't do anything until the door is forced. If the door is open, you take that coupling and you put it inside the threshold. The reason we put it inside the threshold is because typically you're advancing the hose, and right about the point where you get to the top of the stairs, to the bedroom, or all the way to the back of the house, that coupling hits that corner and it locks up. So if you put that coupling on the inside of the threshold, it doesn't have that, and you can go get your continuous hose operation. So if you're running a 4-man crew, this irons guy will come up and he can grab another fold of hose and bring it up. And what that does is that'll, continuing that kind of accordion pattern or Z pattern, stages all your hose right there at the doorway. The advantage to that is once you make entry, you're not pulling 100 foot of hose to go in, you're pulling essentially 5 foot or 10 foot of hose. And the hose will play in. If you're going upstairs or downstairs, it will follow you in, okay? So back to the officer. The officer's doing the 360, he comes around. When he gets to this point, your entry team should already be masked up, ready to go. The forcible entry guy, after he's come up and met the nozzleman, he checks the door. He checks to see if it's locked, checks to see if it's hot, and then he prepares his, if he has to force, he breaks his tools apart and he prepares to force. If he doesn't have to force, they usually set the tool off to the side and he's ready to be number 2 man on the hose. So number 2 man's job on the hose is to make sure that the number 1 man, the nozzle guy, gets to where he needs to go. So he's going to be pushing hose in, or he's going to be taking hose in with him. So as the officer comes around, gets here, gives his final orders, as maybe fires on the Bravo Charlie corner, upstairs, we've got a Tot Finder emblem in the window on the Alpha Charlie side, you know, some, whatever, to the effect he'll give you a quick rundown of the conditions and a game plan, you know, or it's a basement fire, or, you know, whatever, and he will give you basically your initial orders on how to go in, and then you'll make entry. While this is happening, the pump operator sets the brake, engages the pump. Sometimes in a nothing showing, he may not put it in pump gear, but he may get everything ready. He'll step out, he'll come back, set the wheel chocks, come around, open up. If the compartment's not open, which it should be because the officer's getting his tool, but if it's not, he'll open it up. He'll pre-stage the ladder, so he'll pull the roof ladder out. 3 rungs, 4 rungs, so that, of course, pull out 3 or 4 rungs. Basically what that does is so that if it turns into a mayday or a vendor search, we can have the ladder ready to go. If the supply line hasn't been pulled, he will basically at least pull it off the bed and set it down. Which brings us to water supply. We have 3 standard water supply commands so the officer giving his size up. As he's pulling in, he'll give his size up, give the description of the building, the condition showing, and he will set the water supply. Level 1 water supply is just the engine. It's not expected to be used. It's only going to be, you know, we can handle it with tank water. That's level 1 water supply. The second part is on this shift, we do a general rule of thumb. If you pull 1 line, it's a level 1. If you pull 2 hand lines, it's a level 2. If you pull 3, it's a level 3. Not to get too far into it, but a level 2 water supply is simply a hose with a gate and 2-3 inches going to an engine or the tanker. Level 3 is the full dump tank setup. So it goes to the drafting engine. We set the dump tank, and then we get a water shovel in place. So that's a 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Any questions? Anything I've missed? It's a little quick. So if you're the nozzle, what's your expectation?
To pull the line out and take the nozzle that way.
Okay. And then once you get up to the door?
For the nozzle man?
Yeah.
Wait for the door to be forcible entry, and then wait for the second man to get behind you.
Okay.
And then
So
take your orders.
go mask up, get ready, test your nozzle.
Yeah.
Some people advocate testing your nozzle on the door. That can tell them real quick before the forcible entry guy gets there whether or not you got heat on the door. Okay. Any other questions? Cool. That's it for today. I appreciate it.
How you doing?